my friend was bragging that his new 3D printer can print a gun, but I'm not really impressed, Dave, because I've had a Canon printer for years.
Yeah.
More talk on homemade guns with Dan Wos next.
I had a Canon, and mine wouldn't print either.
You are a Canon, my friend.
I am a Canon. And by the way, good job last week.
Thank you.
I was out playing in the desert, got a lot of good compliments. I was glad to see the key still turned in the door.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Good job on the
when
show.
You hosted, yeah.
I find out your job over there on that side of the desk is harder than I thought. You gotta
corral. You gotta corral the cats.
Yeah,
is the old saying.
That's right. You gotta coordinate. But I'm glad you got Mother's Day off, Dave.
Yeah, I went to the desert. They went down Diablo Drop.
Diablo Drop. Wow.
Yeah,
what were you in?
I was GMC Sierra.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Anyway, hey folks, does it take too long or too much time to clean your guns? Well, clean, lube, and protect your guns faster with Seal One. Seal One CLP Plus is natural, non-toxic, and environmentally friendly. Clean your guns easier, faster. You'll smell better, too. Something that moms will appreciate. One and done with Seal One. Ask for it by name at your local gun shop or get some on their website, seal1.com. That's seal1.com.
All right, our next guest, Dan Wos, author of Good Gun, Bad Guy, and the Second Amendment Advocate. Oh, and Second Amendment. Author of Good Gun. See, it is tough, Dave.
I'm telling you, and you're on that side.
Radio's not for the faint of heart.
Faint of heart.
Author of Good Guy, Bad Gun, and he's a Second Amendment Advocate. Dan Wos. How you doing, Dan?
Good. How are you guys? What's going on over there on the West Coast?
We're struggling, but we're doing fine.
Yeah, I'm learning how to read right here live on the show.
Hey, well, if you don't mind, I'll correct you on that. It's Good Gun, Bad Guy.
Good Gun. It's written correctly, and I just didn't read it correctly. Oh, my gosh.
See, so I don't want to hear nothing when I screw up a commercial.
Good Gun, Bad Guy. Tell it real quick. How do people find that book?
GoodGunBadGuy.com.
Oh, well, there you go. That's smart.
Difficult.
So how you doing, man? You've been on the show.
Take it easy. Yeah, I'm doing great.
Good.
There's a lot of stuff going on, and oh man, I just got back from Rock the Red, so I spoke at the big Freedom event with Mike Lindell, Lara Trump, and Roger Stone. So that was a lot of fun.
Wow.
In South Carolina. And
what was the purpose? What was going on there?
It was really just a freedom conference, really. It was fantastic because we had people from all over the country, people from all over the world, really, coming to speak and to come to the event and just kind of gather and unite. And it was called Rock the Red. Like I said, we had some good speakers there, and
Was it good attendance? Is it a typical Trump type rally?
It was a lot more passive than your typical Trump rally. It was more of a conference, hotel kind of setup,
Okay.
With vendors and exhibitors, and I did a book signing and stuff like that. So it was a little bit of a different.
What was your part? What did you talk about?
Well, I was the only Second Amendment voice at the event, and I basically talked about terminology, how the anti-gun left uses terminology to demonize guns and gun owners. So I hit on a lot of the things that people know about and they hear all the time, like the gun violence and the ghost guns and the weapons of war and all the big terms that they use to kind of boldly put this messaging out there. So I talked about that, and I dissected a lot of that stuff and kind of explained why they use those things and how it affects the way we think about guns in America. And I got into some statistics, and I talked about the number of defensive gun uses. There's a huge number of defensive gun uses in America, as opposed to the very small amount of
homicides.
Times guns. Right, exactly. So I talked a lot about those statistics and stuff, and really made the case, because the case is out there to make.
It is.
The problem is people just aren't making it. But I made the case for gun ownership and the fact that gun ownership is a net positive to preserve life, and that's really what I talked about, and people really loved it. So,
so correct me if I'm wrong. There are close to 3 million defensive gun uses every year in the country, right? Something like that?
It depends. It depends what studies you look at. Now, there are a couple that I go to. The big one that was in 1995. Was by Gary Kleck and Mark Gertz, and Gary Kleck is a Florida criminologist. If you guys are familiar with that. That was 2.5 million defensive gun uses per year.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about that is that 46%, if you read that report and you get down deep into the details, you realize that 46% of those are women defending themselves with a gun. And
wow.
Over 95% of the time, the gun isn't even used. It's just the mere presence of a gun that stops the bad guy. So it's really just astonishing that we're not talking about this stuff more. The funny thing about that study is the media tried covering up, and they tried discrediting it for the longest time. But the CDC came out with a report that showed 2.46 million, essentially the same number. And they held that report as long as they possibly could, and they didn't release it. They were finally forced to release it, and what it basically did was it backed up the Kleck-Gertz study. And there's really no denying it. There was another college, I forget what college it was, Georgetown or some college, who did a study that showed 1.67 million defensive gun uses per year. And while we're talking, I'll try to find that.
Now, I think that CDC report it's kind of funny, but I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was initiated and then finally published under the Obama administration, and it completely backfired on them.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't want that information getting out. It was terrible for their narrative. And then 2021 National Firearms Survey, McDonough School of Business, Georgetown University, the study found 1.67 million defensive gun uses per year in America. 69.5% were handguns. 81.9% of the time, no shots fired.
Wow! In your whole life, do you have a defensive gun use story at all? I mean, not necessarily pulling the trigger, but any kind of defensive gun use story.
It actually was a time that I didn't have a gun that really changed my life, and I tell the story in Good Gun, Bad Guy. But I was on the anti-gun side of this conversation for a while. And although I was raised in a pro-gun family, I kind of went anti-gun in my teens and 20s, because I was hanging with the wrong crowd. I wasn't hanging with bank robbers or drug dealers. I was hanging with the anti-gun liberals, and that stuff gets in your head. So it happened to me, and which is why I write the way I write, because I started to see the lies and the false narrative. But anyway, so
I like you better now, Dan.
Well, most people do. Well, the people who matter like me more now.
Yeah.
But my wife and I are coming out of a late-night movie theater, and we had this run-in with this guy, and it was, we were fine. We ended up fine, but it was just enough to make me realize that my job as a man, as a husband, as a father is to protect my family. And that night, had it gone sideways, I don't think I would have been able to. So that night changed everything for me. It was kind of that's my defensive gun story. It's a story of when I didn't have a gun.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's go back over the numbers. So 1.5, and this, by the way, this isn't even what we're supposed to talk about. We're going to talk about what we're supposed to talk about in the next segment, I promise. Okay. But this is really interesting. So between 1.5 and 2.5 million times per year, somebody uses a firearm defensively, not necessarily pulling the trigger. It could just be, brandishing.
Most often it's brandishing.
Most often it's brandishing. You said about half the time it's a woman.
Yeah, exactly. Don't we want women to be able to protect themselves? Aren't we interested in women being able to defend themselves? I don't understand why we would want women to be defenseless.
So 1.5 to 2.5 million times per year, somebody stops a violent attack, possibly a murder,
Sure.
but a violent attack, some kind of attack on themselves. 1.5 to 2.5 million times a year. Homicides. Now, a homicide is anytime someone dies. It's not necessarily, it doesn't matter what the cause was, right? It's just anytime one human kills another, or is that
right? There's a difference between homicide and murder.
Right. Murder implies that you're doing it illegally or with bad intent, I guess, whereas a homicide could be a suicide as a type of homicide. Is that right?
Good question. I'm not sure on that one, but they do qualify suicides differently.
Okay.
When they look at these gun-related death numbers.
So how many non-suicide? How many homicides per year usually?
Okay. Well, we start with the number about 40,000 gun-related deaths. So they love, the anti-gun crowd says, they love to say 40,000, gun murders, right?
Yeah.
Well, the truth is we have to take 60% of those out because 60% of those are suicides. And we can't keep those in there because we cannot attribute suicide to guns because we understand now by looking at Australia and other countries that when you just in the absence of guns, suicides doesn't go down. As a matter of fact, in Australia, suicides actually ticked up a little bit after the big gun bans. So we have to take that out. So we're down to about 14,400 gun-related deaths, and that includes law enforcement, and it includes gang violence. And the vast majority of that 14.4 is gang violence. So what would happen if we took gang violence out? We'd be down to just about nothing, you know. And the interesting thing is that they focus on that 40,000 number, which is false, and they ignore the 2.5 million defensive gun users.
But even if it was,
even
if it was 40,000, even if you include the very sad and tragic reality that 2/3 of that are suicides, 40,000 combined or compared to 1.5 to 2.5 million is absolutely nothing. Okay, so we're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about home manufactured firearms, Dan.
Hey, well, a lot of companies are really frustrated with their websites. It looks old. It's hard to update. It's not generating any leads. It smells. But you know what? Sage Tree gets it. Since 2005, Sage Tree has been helping companies with websites that look great, work great, and get leads. Stop being embarrassed by your website and get one that you're proud to share. Contact Sage Tree today to get a website that makes the phone ring. Getting started is just super easy. Go to sagetree.com. Schedule a call. Go to sagetree.com. Press that schedule a call button, and you'll be all set. All right, Michael.
All right, we're talking to Dan Wos. He's the author of Good Gun, Bad Guy. Did I get it right, Dan?
Yeah, you got it right, man.
All right, brother. All right, so we just had a whole cool conversation on defensive gun use, which was really, really interesting. I appreciate that very much. We should get you out to the West Coast to give that same speech, man. We got to figure out a way to get you out here.
Gun prom.
I would be happy to. Yeah, let's try to make it happen. I'd love to come out there and show people what real patriotism looks like.
That'd be cool. Well,
you guys are doing a great job of it.
Yeah, well, thank you. And we'll have who's your guitar playing buddy out here? What was that dude's name?
Oh, Todd Howarth. He played with he played keyboards for Cheap Trick. He played guitar for Ace Frehley.
Yeah.
Ted Nugent. He played with Ted Nugent.
There you go. So bring your guitar.
Okay.
I play bass.
All right.
Dave, I don't know if you know this, plays the congos.
I don't play nothing.
Or the bongos. He sings.
I sing.
I do play bass. That'd be cool. We should go jam with that guy. That'd be cool, Dan. You come out here, I would love that. That would be a highlight.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, I'll definitely try to make that happen. Let's try to do that.
Do that at gun prom. And there's our entertainment.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, actually. It's not a bad idea.
I know.
All right, so home manufactured guns. So it's kind of ghost guns are a hot, that's the hot button these days, right? That's what the anti-gunners are all going after. I got to tell you, politically, strategically, the anti-gun folks way, way better than the pro-gun folks. They do a really good job of picking one thing, and they put all their effort towards it, and they gain as much ground as they can possibly gain on it. Mm-hmm. They make it sound like it's the worst thing that's ever happened in the whole history of mankind, and then they get as much restricted and taken away and banned as they can, and then they move on and they all concentrate on the next big thing. So right now, what they're doing is they're concentrating on ghost guns. But they're conflating the idea of ghost guns and home manufactured firearms in order to gain ground, in order to continue with their anti-gun agenda. So what do you make of all this, Dan?
Well, ghost guns is a term that I'm starting to notice is being used for a larger purpose. So basically, when they talk about ghost guns, what they're talking about is any gun that can't be tracked or traced by the government. And the implication of the term ghost guns, the implication is that guns should be traceable. This is astonishing to me that people would even go down that path, because I don't remember reading in the Second Amendment, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed as long as the government can track your guns to your front door. That was never in there. In other words, our founding fathers never had any intention of the government knowing who has guns, where they're located, and all that stuff. This is something that the term ghost guns, it implies that it's some outrageous notion that these guns can't be traced. Well, I think that was the original intent. Anyway, so that's my first piece on ghost guns. But the real reason that they're pushing this term is because they always, if you notice, they always push something and then they have a solution to solve the problem, right?
Right.
So their solution to these so-called ghost guns that can't be traced is what? Universal background checks, right? Because now they're saying, well, these ghost guns are out in the streets and they're roaming around the cul-de-sac and we don't know where they are and they're scary and people who don't know any better get scared of the term ghost guns. Oh my God, what is it? Well, so the idea then is, well, we can fix the problem, they say. We just need universal background checks. All right. So why do they want universal background checks so badly? And that is because every gun will be registered and will be traced. And that means family members, exchanging guns, friends exchanging guns, all have to go through an FFL, the serial numbers get registered. So the idea there is to know where the guns are, who has them, who they're registered to, and all that stuff. And now here's the clincher of all this. Why would they want to be pushing universal background checks at the same time that we hear so much about red flag laws? And remember swatting. Swatting was a thing where you could turn in your neighbors and the cops would come and harass the gun owner. But no reason. You could do it for any reason. You saw a gun in public at the Kroger grocery store or whatever. You could call the cops and they would even say, let the cops sort it out. Well, swatting turned into red flag laws or extreme risk protection orders, which is actually legislation in some states that say the cops can come in, you can accuse somebody of being a danger to society. The cops can come, confiscate the guns, and figure it out later. Yeah. And
California's a big champion of that malarkey. It's really horrible. It really truly is a law that allows others to be predatory against gun owners.
Well, and here's the thing that I started to notice is that the reason universal background checks or gun registry are being pushed simultaneously or in tandem with red flag laws is because, once you know where the guns are with universal background checks and a registry, you'll need the vehicle in place to confiscate them, which is the red flag laws. I mean, these two, it's like peanut butter and jelly. These two go together, and I don't think a lot of people recognize it, which is scary to me. So that's why I try to point that stuff out.
Interesting. So what do you think? I mean, where do we go from here with this? What's the future look like?
We fight it. We fight it back at every step of the way. We don't compromise with anything. I'm not going to compromise on bump stocks. I'm not going to compromise on anything, magazine capacity restrictions. I'm not going to compromise on anything because the minute we do, you guys know what happens. They take that and they go for more. And pretty soon, I mean, here, look where we are. You guys, I'm in New York, so I'm not any better off than you. We have a 2-tier permitting system, which is absolutely ridiculous. We've got a 1-year waiting period, to carry a gun in public. And you guys, you got crazy gun laws there too, because we didn't speak up. We didn't support our gun rights organizations enough. They didn't have the money. I always believe in supporting your state-run gun rights organization, and also at least one or two of your national gun rights organizations, because they're the ones in court. They're the ones fighting these ridiculous gun laws, and we have to just keep fighting them back.
It's crazy, and we didn't even plan on talking about the red flag laws like gun violence restraining orders, but you probably don't know this, but the sheriff in San Diego stepped down, and we're in the middle of an election. And you're talking about, support and fight back and, all that other good stuff. And you're absolutely right on. The Republicans endorsed a guy who he supports red flag laws and gun violence restraining orders. Yeah. Not only does he support them in his job as city attorney in San Diego, he actually helped spread them to other jurisdictions. So he took it upon himself, they got a grant from the state to go to other law enforcement agencies and not just say, hey, here's how you implement these red flag laws, but basically say, hey, take these red flag laws and turn them into standard operating procedure almost any time a gun's involved.
Well, I've been I've been writing about. I write for AmmoLand, and I've been writing about the Florida, which should have been the 25th constitutional carry state, and it failed because there's rhino Republicans in Florida, in the Florida legislature, who've been dragging their feet now for the third year in a row on constitutional carry because they're the same guys who supported the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas bill, which included red flag laws and age requirements.
And Dan, it's so bad, I propose we stop saying rhino, Republican in name only. I propose we just start calling them Republicans because over and over again, it's just what they support, you know? So anyway, Dan, thank you so much, man. Always a pleasure. Can't wait to get you out here. Thanks for your time.
Keep up the fight, my man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.